Thanks to everybody for sticking around. Now, back to my interview with Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Steele. Before, we were just chatting about how much money you have. It's interesting that you're proud of that. Others say, you know, you should be doing better. You're on the cusp of the greatest year in the history of the Republican Party.
Better.
Well, let me just read this to you. This was from First Read, MSNBC. RNC has just $8.7 million in the bank. By the way, I think it's about the same as Harry Reid. As of November 30th versus the $23 million that had at the start of his tenure, $13.2 million at DNC.
What did they think I was stop? You think I'm going to sit and hold all this money and not spend money?
Well, let me just finish, Mr. Chairman, then you can respond. And as the Washington Times reported, some heavy-hitting donors are refusing to give
not true.
Not due to their
I'm not stopping. It's not true. It's just not true.
You are leaving races on the table for the historic
No, I'm
cycle.
not. That is not true. And you know, look.
Is this just a fact of life of being chairman? People
it is. It actually is.
Is that what it is?
It absolutely is. And you get used to it in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the job. There are those who are still kind of spinning out of control that I won. There are those who aren't used to my style. I'm different. I said I would be. I am. I don't. I'm not a conventional Washington insider.
That's what they want, though. You know, don't cause any problems. You know this too. You used to be an elected official, right?
Yeah.
You know, they say the party can only hurt you. We just hope the guy keeps his mouth shut.
Right,
That's essentially what they're saying, right?
And so when I go through airports and stand in line at a Starbucks and go to a Target and stand out in my neighborhood and wash my cars, you know, when folks come up and talk to you, they tell you the real deal. And what they're saying right now is bring the fight to the game. They like that. They like the fiery. Now, look, I get passionate. There's no doubt about that. I do get passionate because I really am concerned and I care about my party, and I want us to make sure that we're strong going into the fall. I want to make sure that we are strong going into 2012. We get a good nominee because it's going to be a battle. I mean, we can't take this for lightly, and nor can we sit back and think that, well, because the Democrats their favorabilities are down and they're proposing terrible legislation and all this, that people are going to come running into our arms.
They're not, right?
For what reason?
The Republicans
we've got to give them
yet.
Right. We've got to give folks. Well, we are benefiting.
You're the party of no.
Well, no, we're not the party of no. We are benefiting from the fact that we saw in New Jersey and Virginia, we had 2 Republican candidates with principled conservatives translate their issues, their principles into the issues of the day. That's what we need to do. We need to go back and engage with people on the issues that matter. Just why do you think Harry is out of sorts here at home? Because he's not engaged on these issues, and to the extent that he has, they don't like what he's saying. And so, you know, the people are not sitting back waiting for someone to tell them what to think and what to believe about health care, the economy, and all of that. They already know it. What they're looking for is the leadership to step up and say 2 things. 1, I understand it and recognize what you already know. And 2, this is what I intend to do about it to make it better. And that's what we're doing right now.
Let's talk about Nevada. You're here to raise some money for the Republican Party here. Let me ask you a question. If you were a chairman of the Republican Party and a Democratic senator had an affair with a staffer, had his parents pay her off, fired both her and her husband who worked for him, then tried to get the husband jobs, you'd be outraged, wouldn't you?
I don't know. Who is the individual you're talking about?
The individual happens to be John Ensign. I was just putting the shoe on the other foot. You haven't said anything about John Ensign because he's one of yours. You're Mr. Double Standard.
Really?
You are.
Is that how you take that?
Yeah, well, I'm asking
I wasn't chairman of the party at the time all that took place, so I had no opinion on it.
What are you talking about? It took place last year.
I wasn't chairman of the party.
Well, but come on. John Ensign is a drag on the party. You know who said that?
Who said that?
Let me tell you who said that. The Republican congressman from Nevada, Dean Heller. He said there's a cloud. He's going to hurt
How's he
Republican
doing? How's he doing with the polls?
How's John Ensign doing?
Yeah, how's he doing?
He's doing very poorly. He's got numbers almost like Harry Reid's numbers.
So it'll be up to the voters to make a judgment about whether or not he returns to the Senate, just as they will make a judgment about whether or not Harry Reid returns to the Senate. I'm not in the business of picking the winners and losers. I wait for you, the people of Nevada, to send a player to the field. Someone else is going to line up on the other side, and we get behind our guy or our gal, and we fight with them to win. That's what I'm asked to do as chairman of the National Committee. So I don't get to opine every day on every little thing. Particularly if I'm not chairman, I'm not going to opine on that because
John Ensign's a U.S. senator right now. There's a cloud over him. Ethics investigation.
Well, we'll see what you'll see. You'll see.
Right?
No, not because I'm a Republican.
Yes.
No, not because I'm a Republican. I don't have any outrage because that's not what I'm paid to look at right now. I'm paid to look at winning races. John Ensign will take care of himself. I know him. I've worked with him. I like the man. I think he's going to be just fine here in Nevada. But that's Michael Steele's judgment the judgment that ultimately matters is the judgment of the people. That's where he has to account, and I'm sure he will, and I'm sure he has since all of this has become relevant, and as will again Harry Reid. So, I mean, you know, look, you've got individual public leaders who have issues before the voters, and the voters, ultimately going to be the ones to decide what is relevant for them and what isn't.
What about the Republican race here for the U.S. Senate? Are you worried that you have too many candidates here? You have
No,
this
not at all.
opportunity.
No, I'm not at all. I think Sue Loudon, who's a dear friend, and Mr. Tarkanian, whom I think I've met once or twice when I've come through in the past, long before this job. I think they're right now perceived to be the two leading Republican candidates. They're doing well. There are others who are in, and maybe someone else will get in, I don't know. My job is to wait to see who crosses that primary finish line. Whoever that is, we get behind and we help. We will be very much involved here in the race. It is a national race, as you know, because it involves a national leader, and I'm excited about that. And I think the opportunity to contrast the decisions and the policies and the legislation introduced by Harry Reid with what our Republican nominee will want to do in the U.S. Senate, I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Republican Party here has been in disarray. It's a fact. Can you help with that? You're here to raise money?
And then that's an interesting point. The parties have gone through a transition really since, across the country. And this is true. It happened for the Democrats after the '94 losses, and again in 2000 where there was the shakeout. But generally what happens is when you have losses like we did in '06, in '08, there is a sense of kind of reorganizing, retooling, and getting priorities straight and identifying who's going to run. And they've gone through that process, and I'm just very excited to work with the chairman and the national committee leadership here. I think they've done a great job in getting the party poised to compete in what will be a very tough race. As you noted, Harry Reid does have a nice bankroll that he can turn to.
It's going to be a tough race, isn't it?
It's going to be a tough race, and this is going to be a race very much like New Jersey, where it doesn't matter what your bankroll is, because the only thing that matters is what the people think of you. So you can spend $1.2 million a week like Corzine did and still lose.
Well, we're going to find out. Chairman Steele, really appreciate your willingness to come on the program.
You're my pleasure. You're a funny man.
Funny man. Thank you. But many things worse have been said. Thanks again for coming. I appreciate it. When we come back, a reality check.